Right. Basically, the idea here is we already know how to factor a quadratic. So we know we can like unfoil this, or we can use a quadratic formula to find answers. So we know how to find factors of this. But what we don't know is we don't know how to factor things that are cubed or to the fourth power. So this is a quick introduction into how we can factor higher degree polynomials. So basically, we're kind of using the theorem to test that we talked about in the other notes to test possible roots. And when we found a root, we use it in synthetic division to find the other factor, and then we have to keep dividing. So one thing you should start with for all of these is you should calculate the constant divided by the lead coefficient. In the book, they call that P over Q, but you just want to calculate that, and then that gives you an answer, and you want to find the factors of that. And then you kind of have to just plug them in and see if they work or not. So again, we're still trying to find the zeros, but I need to factor this. Like I said up here, this is pretty easy. When I factor this, this would be x plus 2 times x plus 1. Well, it's not so easy down here. So what we do is we do this right here. So I take the constant, which in this case is the 6. The lead coefficient right here is 1. So that's 6. And then I think about what are the factors that would give me 6. So 1 and 6, negative 1, negative 6, 2 and 3, negative 2 and negative 3. And then unfortunately we kind of just have to like take one and see if it works or not. So using that synthetic division, I'd have 1 as this coefficient, negative 2 here, negative 5, and 6. And let's say I start with trying 2. So remember with the synthetic division, this one just comes down. So I do 2 times 1, I get 2, 0, so 2 times 0, I get 0. Add those together, I get negative 5. 2 times negative 5, I get negative 10. So 2 does not work. So I'm not going to try 3 because that's not probably going to work either then. So let's try 1. So if I try 1, again, doing the synthetic division again, pull that down. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 2 plus 1 gives me negative 1. 1 times negative 1 gives me negative 1. This would give me negative 6. 1 times negative 6 gives me negative 6. 0. So this one I had a remainder of negative 4. But here I don't have a remainder, so this one works. So that means one of my factors is x. And whatever that number is here, you always have to change the sign when you write it as a factor. So I have x minus 1, and then I no longer have cubed. I have x squared minus 1x minus 6. Well, this now looks like what we knew from before, so then I can keep factoring this. So I still have my x minus, again, that x minus 1 just came from this one right here because this one didn't work. And then I can say that x minus 3, x plus 2 is going to work here. So, and then you're saying, why didn't 2 work here? Well, if I would have tried minus 2, it would have worked. So here, this is my final answer here. So that's how I went about factoring this one. Again, over here, I would take that 10 divided by the 1 again. I get 10. So the factors of 10 are 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and then all the negative ones. So again, let's say I just start with 2. Using that synthetic division, I have 1, negative 6, 3, 10. Bring down that one. 2 times 1 is 2. This is minus 4. 2 times minus 4 is negative 8. Minus 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So that's 0. So that worked. So then the factor here is x minus 2. Remember, switch the sign. Again, this was a cube, so now I have x squared minus 4x minus 5. And this right here I can factor again. So I'd have x minus 5, x plus 1 there. And sorry, back, so this would be the answer for this one. And back here, just, so if when you're asked to identify the roots, so what would make this 0? So it would be positive 1, 3, negative 2. So again, positive 1 worked. If we would have tried negative 2, it would have worked. Over here, my roots would be 2, which worked, 5, which would have worked, or negative 1, which would have worked. Same thing down here. So here I'll take the 12 divided by 1, so I get 12. So again, we have lots of options here. So 1 and 12, negative 1, negative 12, 2, 6, negative 2, negative 6, 3, 4, negative 3, negative 4. So if we just pick, I don't know, let's say I pick 2. And then I have 1, negative 3, negative 4, 12. So this is, bring down the 1, 2, negative 1, this is negative 2, negative 6, negative 12, 0. So that worked. So I have x, again, change the sign, minus 2. This was a cube, x squared minus x minus 6. But this again, we can, it looks just like that one up here, so I can keep factoring. X minus 3, x plus 2. So this one, my roots are 3, 2, negative 2. Alright, over here, we're going to have 200 divided by 1. There is a lot of factors here. So like, you'd have 1 and 200, negative 1, negative 200, 2 and 100. And then we'd have the negatives, 4 and 50 and the negatives. And then we'd have 8 and 25 and the negatives, and 10 and 20 and the negatives. And so we'd have all those negatives there. So there's a lot here. So I'll tell you a little shortcut here. But you're still going to have to show me some work here. But you can come in here and you can type the function. Make sure you type it correctly, because otherwise you're not going to get the right answer. Oops. So I have x to the 4th minus 2x cubed minus 33x squared plus 50x plus 200. I'm going to graph that. If it doesn't work when you graph it, just clear the memory of the calculator and then graph it. When we're finding those roots, we're just finding when it crosses the x-axis. So if I trace this right here, this is my intercept for the y. That's not really what I want. But you can see right here, it looks like right there we have x would be equal to 4. Again, you could always hit that second trace and do a 0. So there's the left side of what I think is a 0. There's the right side. So there is a 0 at 4. So then, instead of trying to guess and check here, let's just start with 4. And we would have 1, negative 2, negative 33, 50, and then 200. Again, even though you know the answer here on the calculator, you're going to have to show me the work. 1 times 4 is 4. Add those up here, we get 2, 8. Add those up, I get negative 25. Here I get negative 100, so I have negative 50. Here I have negative 200, so I have 0. Again, change the sign. This is different though. This is 4th power, not a cubic like the other one. So we still have x cubed plus 2x squared minus 25x minus 50. We have to keep factoring this one. So at this point here, we could use one of these other ones to just keep working it. So this one right here is going to be x equals 5. So I'm going to do the 5, and I'm just taking this part right here, and I'm going to do, so 1, 2, minus 25, minus 50, 1, this is 5, this ends up being 7, this ends up being 35, this ends up being negative 50, and what did I do wrong here? Because this is positive 10 here, that's what I did wrong. So negative 25 plus 35 is positive 10. So 5 times this is positive 50. So then we get 0. So now we're at x minus 4, x minus 5, and then here we're at x squared plus 7x plus 10. So again, this right here was still a cubic, so I still had to use a synthetic division to get it down to a quadratic. And now with that quadratic, I can do x. So this is going to be plus 5. This is going to be plus 2. So that'll give me 5 times 2 is 10. 5 plus 2 is 7. So then my roots for this one are going to be 4, 5, negative 5, and negative 2. Okay. And then, let's see something here.